If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his wallet. Hell, give him someone to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. Lyndon B. Johnson. What do you see when you look at Make America White Again? What do you see? A bunch of three-teeth, inbred white trash. Poor me, the world's against me, I'm the victim, right? Somehow, these white trash Americans who have never been oppressed in their entire life have convinced themselves, because of their stupidity, their lack of education, whitewashing history, that they're the victims. That a man who never gave them a health care plan, who never released his taxes, who added $8 trillion to the debt, who's a rapist, who's defending pedophiles, who never released the Epstein files, he convinced them, with the guy that has his own airplane that takes a crap in a gold toilet worth billions of dollars, that the brown people coming from Mexico, that they're the evil boogeyman. They're eating the dogs and cats with no evidence. But it's okay for the white man that wears orange makeup and craps his diapers because he's so manly. That's okay. But if you're here as a brown person and you're undocumented, you just want law and order. But it's okay if white people attack police officers on January 6th, but the rapist and convicted felon, because you're all about law and order, pardons all of them. They're patriots. But if a black man takes a knee, he's a son of a bitch. If a black man wants to vote, you beat him on the Edmund Pettus Bridge nearly to death. If a black man gives a speech, just wants to be equal to the white man, I have a dream, you throw his ass in solitary confinement and put bombs on his porch and murder him. You see the difference? Because you guys are white trash. And somehow, because of your decades of inbreeding with your cousins and your sisters and your moms, that you've convinced yourself that somehow you're the victim, not the rich white people that are screwing us. Yes, it's the libtards. It's the brown people. It's DEI. Why do you think that they worship that racist piece of shit, Charlie Kirk? Because he spoke to uneducated, lowest white man. MAGA, Make America White Again, right? What did he say? The blacks are taking the whites' jobs, the great white replacement theory. Ooh, do you see that black Supreme Court justice? Oh, she must be an affirmative action hire. If you go on an airplane, how do you know if they're qualified if they're black? Oh, isn't Harris Black Hillary? That's what they were attracted to, was his white supremacy. And even last week, they put that racist up on the building for education. He was a loser, a college dropout, a racist. But they put him up on the building because he appeases to the lowest white man. That's why we have Donald Trump. Vice President Harris intimidated these lowest common denominator white trash MAGA. She wasn't a felon, a rapist. She's not on the Epstein list. She didn't cause an insurrection. She didn't add $8 trillion to the debt. She doesn't call women fat and piggy. She doesn't call our troops suckers. She's not a felon. But that was a bridge too far. So what you did was that you held her to a different standard. This is what I heard about the black woman. Oh, she slept her way to the top. So she had a relationship with Willie Brown. That's none of my goddamn business, and I have no right to even talk about it. But if a white man cheats on every wife and rapes women, that's okay because he's white. You don't like her laugh? Well, tell me you're a sexist pig without telling me you're a sexist pig. But if the president calls women piggy and says, grab them by the pussy, that's okay because he's a white man. You didn't like her policies on what? Universal health care? Raising minimum wage? And then you wrote for the white man that has concepts of a plan, that hasn't given you a health care plan in 10 years, who literally talked about Hannibal Lecter on a goddamn stage, and you're like, oh, he's so smart. Oh, you're a bunch of morons. Look, I saw Roland Martin. He said exactly what I've been saying. He said we went from the first black president back to the plantation owner. A large chunk of this country was triggered by a black man taking a crap on traditional family values, i.e. white. A white man and a white wife and a white picket fence and 2.3 kids and a dog. That's what they did. They were scared to death. You know, the picture of the white kid at a white ice cream shop sitting next to a white cop being served by a white man. Oh, at the same time, black people weren't allowed to go into that ice cream shop. But you, white trash, lowest denominator, don't want to talk about that, do you? But somehow you're the victim. And yet, you've never been in somebody's will. Your parents or grandparents have never been hung in a damn tree. You've never had family members that died on the Middle Passage. You've never been segregated. You've never been called the N-word. You've never been paid less. You've never been looked at differently. You've never been pulled over at night. But somehow, some way, you're the victim of everything in the world. And you blame everybody for your shitty, pitiful, white trash life, except for the person looking back with 3 teeth. 2/3 of our country live paycheck to paycheck. 3 people own half the wealth. You tell me that the brown people coming from Mexico that do the jobs you're too lazy to do, working in our fields, customer service, building houses, they bust our ass. And to be frank, they love this country more than MAGA does. MAGA just wants white America. They bust their ass way harder than MAGA do. How many MAGA do you see out in the field? 350-pound Billy Bob out there with his Make America White Again hat. He ain't doing that shit because he's too lazy and he's too out of shape. He wants to do something lazy. He would rather be a white supremacist and put on his white hood and bitch about brown people and deport everybody that's here undocumented, but the white man could be a convicted felon. Because you're too stupid to have critical thinking. And it comes back to the real problem with this country, which is the lie of American exceptionalism. It's not a great country. It's just not. You don't have 800,000 homeless and 14 million kids go to school hungry, 42 million people, over 12% of the population that need taxes just to eat, when 2/3 live paycheck to paycheck. 40,000 people die from gun violence. We lead the world in military spending, gun violence, white supremacy, and incarcerations. Great job. Work great. But you're so stupid from decades of inbreeding that you don't realize that and you don't want to see it. Because you don't want to change your view of American exceptionalism. And like this quote said, if you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, that's what you've done. You've convinced yourselves from decades of inbreeding that somehow, because of how you look white, that you're better than transgender people or black people or immigrants or Muslims or Afghans or Mexicans, anybody that's not white, you think that you're better than them based on what you look like instead of the context of their character. And that's why we have Trump. Because they didn't care about the context of his character. They cared about what he looked like. That's all they cared about. And it's rich that so many of these white supremacist, make America white again people, like Carolyn Levitt and that loser that finished 5th place because she wasn't good enough, that you say you're pro-life, but you didn't care about the lives of E.G. and Carroll that he raped, or the 25 women that he sexually assaulted, or the girls at Epstein Island that he's literally and actively protecting. And let's be real, he did a lot of horrible stuff to little girls on there. 5 officers died after January 6th. Women are dying of sepsis rates. You don't do a damn thing about any of those lives because you appease to the lowest common denominator, which is ignorant, racist, 3-teeth, white trash MAGA supporters. And you profit off of their stupidity and their ignorance and their white victimhood. Transgenders in sports. Ooh, are they eating the dogs and cats? Is there a litter box? Ooh, I heard there's a tampon in a boy's bathroom. That's a bridge too far. And CRT and DEI. You guys are a joke. 40,000 people die from gun violence, and you don't do a damn thing about it. Nothing to see here. Dead officers on January 6th. Nothing to see here. But the tampons in the bathrooms, you're all going to burn in hell. God forbid a gay person go into a church. They're all going to burn in hell, right? But if you rape women, you get to be president because, hey, I can't help who God picks. God didn't pick him, you did. Because of your white supremacy. And we can continue to ignore this as long as we want. But this is where we're going to be stuck as a country. And I'll leave you with this last thought. And this is mainly for the Latino men that voted for him. Because you're racist and sexist pigs. Misogynists. Why do you think that in 250 years, 51% of the country are women? It's bad enough that we didn't let black people vote until the 1960s. Women couldn't even vote until the early 1900s. And even though over half of our country are women, we still haven't had a woman president. Fascinating. I'm sure that's just a coincidence because you just want the most qualified candidate. And we had the most qualified candidate with Vice President Kamala Harris. But you still wanted to stay with the white male patriarchy. Have a white day.